What's up, y'all? Today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the first stop for Street League 2024. This stop location took place in Paris, France, where the future Olympics will be held in July later this year. Most notably on the lineup, we have the hometown heroes, Vincent Malou and Aurélien Girard for the men's division, and two substitutes for the women's, Candy Jacobs and another fellow French skater, Charlotte Him, filling in for Paige Hein and Noé Umera. There was definitely a lot of pressure going into this event for those representing their home country, especially amongst the onslaught of the Brazilian and Japanese skaters on their home turf. Starting off with the knockout rounds, we can see that the women had an overall 82% landing rate compared to the men's 72%. Being 10% higher, keep in mind that although the difficulty of these tricks done is not as advanced as the men's division, the average age of these women skaters is about 6 years younger than that of the men's. As for the men's knockout round, both Nigel Horndog Houston and Vincent Earmuff Malou tied for having the highest line scores of the men's knockout runs. Vincent dished out an astounding 11 tricks with the slightest mishap for an astounding score of 9.0. Unfortunately, only after Nigel himself graced by with his quality over quantity and delivered 4 regular stance tricks in his 9-piece line, rewarding him a 9 club as well. All before we have an iconic moment in brief history with Nigel bailing his first tray flip ever in the second line of his knockout rounds. Speaking of bails, big shouts out to Group 3 for being the only single trick section in the entire night across all events where every skater bailed on at least one trick attempt. Also props to Alex Miller for coming through with the least makes and the highest bails of the knockout round with a perfect 50-50 land to bail ratio. Being the third highest ranked USA Olympic skater, it was weird seeing him be this inconsistent, but the tricks he was able to land were actually fairly difficult. It's no surprise when watching his lines that Vincent had the most makes with 25 tricks landed, but as far as landing percentage goes, Sora Shirai came through hot and ready. Having a landing percentage of 89.5, Sora only bailed once in his lines and once in his singles, giving him a total score of 51.9 across all 7 scores possible. This is an astounding 4.8 points higher than Nigel Houston's 47.1 total score, and he still would have made the finals if he had bailed both his lines or one of his 2 single tricks. Now when it comes to a great finale, this knockout round ended on a high note with Aurélien Girard coming in clutch with the highest scoring single trick of the night, a fully rotated backside 360 kickflip off the kicker to flat, landing him a 9.4 and dropping his low 5.5 line score that was dragging him down from that final spot. Nothing beats a last chance Hail Mary, and this was a sentimental moment to watch for both Aurélien and his country. With both knockout rounds concluded, our finals have been shifted to a slightly larger 6-spot group this year, allowing for one more person to squeeze in for the fun. Usually they would do the finals the following day as to allow for rest, but these finals took place only 6 hours after the knockout rounds finished, so keep that in mind when it comes to skaters' exhaustion levels and just overall performance. As for the men's finals, we have Nigel kick things off with the highest line score of the night on a more perfected version of his previous line, now featuring a switch heel frontside board on the rubber, and earning him a solid 9.2 for everyone to catch up with. Fortunately, Aurélien seems to be the only one up to the task with a solid 9.0 run to level out the playing field as we move on to the single trick section. Despite having the highest land percentage in the knockout rounds with only 7 out of 16 tricks being landed, Sora Shirai unfortunately tanked down from 89.5 to 46.7% landing rate. There's no telling whether this is from injury or exhaustion, but having gone from the best performing skater in the knockout rounds to the worst performing skater of the whole day in the finals just shows how crucial those 6 hours can really be. Despite those setbacks in the finals, Sora was able to tie with Gustavo Ribeiro for the highest scored single trick in the finals with a 9.3 on his nollie big spin backtail big spin out and his frontside alley-oop nose grind 180 out. Having seen the trend of skaters opting for single tricks they did in the knockouts, Gustavo was able to bring his previous score up from 9.2 with an improved landing of his crook nollie varial heel previously done almost 6 hours prior. I will say Aurélien could have stole the highest single trick again if it weren't for his excessive hand drag on his trusty backside 360 kickflip that nailed him a 9.4 in the knockouts. Not that he needed it, because based on scoring, Aurélien was the only skater to have a perfect 9-club top 4 with not a single kept score being below 9.0, having landed perfectly enough tricks to not waste any scores. As far as total scores go, Nigel did have a smaller gap from first considering his consistency in line scores, but unfortunately bailed 3 single tricks and was just out of reach. If it were not for an improved landing on Gustavo's crook nollie varial heel, Nigel could have taken second place, having missed it by just the 0.1 Gustavo's trick was able to gain. To recap the knockout round for the women's division, Chloe Cavell delivered the highest scoring line of both groups with swapping out tricks from her original line for her second and getting a 7.8 as the result. Across the single trick section, Funa Nakayama had the highest scoring single trick with the buttery frontside crook across the long double set handrail, scoring an 8.8. Now, if she didn't land this specific trick as her first single, it would have resulted in a final score of 17.9, given that 6th spot to Ruse, who had a solid 20. One thing I did feel conflicted on for this single trick scoring was the 8.5 given to Haisa Leal for her frontside blunt shove out on a handrail, which arguably the grinds have a similar difficulty, but it seems the judges rewarded the long square double set rail higher than the middle handrail, despite doing a trick out of a grind. Candy Jacobs, our older alumni substitute, unfortunately had the most bails across the knockout and finals for a woman, with a total of 12 lands across her 19 attempts. As for the inverse, Keat, however, had not only landed the most tricks, but also had the highest percentage landing rate, yet the difficulty of those tricks is heavily reflected in her final score. One important thing to note is that Funa Nakayama had the highest total score in the knockout rounds, yet her final score was hurt due to her low-scored single trick selections. Although the spread between her and Haiso isn't much, it is helpful to highlight how playing the rules of SLS will benefit your score in the long run, with choosing to focus only on high scores. For the women's finals, it was clear that amongst the 6 skaters, it was an all-out battle between Chloe and Haisa for that top spot, as both came in tearing up the course. It was not too much of a surprise to see Chloe take the highest scoring line in the finals, having perfected her execution of substituting tricks for a higher score with little risk. However, despite these skaters throwing down in the line section, when it came to the singles, Momiji Nishida delivered with the lofty crook nollie heel on the main hubba. This was a step up from her last make in the knockout rounds, but on a smaller hubba, which I feel could have either been a typical progression or a genius strategy, as it landed her at 9.2, making it the highest scored trick amongst both singles and lines for women the whole day. As far as landing percentage is considered, Yumika Oda had not only the lowest percentage of bails, she only failed one time, landing 20 out of 21 tricks attempted. When it comes to total score, it's clear to see that Chloe and Yumika were very close, but due to Yumika's poor run score, her single tricks were just not enough to save her in that final scoring. Chloe came out on top with 21 out of 23 tricks landed and a final score of 3.2, avoiding the reach of Haisa, who again had a line score that held her back only 1.1 points from that top spot. It's clear to see here with this format that lines win games, and if you don't put your best foot forward, you may be having to crawl up that podium in the singles section to reach the top spot. With the conclusion, this brings Chloe's first win of 2024 season and a possible chance at maybe taking Haisa's spot on the throne, and an absolutely perfect win for the Frenchman Aurélien Girard in his own home country. Having gained back the sponsorship of a major brand like Monster, and having more prize money to disperse with additional events along the way, it's clear to see, and only time will tell if it's better than ever. Over the course of both knockout rounds, there was a total of 815 tricks attempted, with 627 being makes and 188 being bails, giving the stop a success rating of 77%, or C+. If one thing's clear from these results, it's that going forward, skaters should focus heavily on establishing a line score no lower than 7, or face the wrath of having to land 4 9 clubs in the single trick section. That, or pray everyone in your heat bails worse than you do. One thing is certain, if you bail 3 single trick attempts, unless everyone does just as bad, you will have no chance of winning, even if you landed 2 9.9 singles and a 9.9 line. With the average winning score for this stop being 35.4 points, it would take an awful lot of miracles to catch up from a really low line score, as we saw with Aurélien on his last try in the knockout rounds. Hope you all appreciated my in-depth look. I'll leave a link in the description for the full Excel sheet for you guys to check out and make your own interpretations. Next stop will be San Diego, so I'll see you guys then.
Ricky, when I catch you, 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 Ricky, you gonna wake up, bro, because you been hiding, bro. I'm in a style. What's up? What's up? Drop your location. What you want to do? I got to go to the internet to do this shit? I got to catch you on the internet. You got to come outside.